we're going to jump straight into it this morning because I'm really thrilled to bring together, to welcome our Professor Sam Harvey, who is our Deputy Director at the Black Dog Institute. And I just want to sort of preface things by saying that, as I said before, we're going through an incredible pandemic with COVID, and the strain on Black Dog Institute has been quite significant, especially in the last 12 months. During that time, we've been designing a new 5-year strategy which speaks to where we're going and what it is we're doing at Black Dog Institute. And we've been doing that in the middle of a pandemic when we're all locked down and working from different locations. So I just want to firstly note how extraordinary it is that we've got through and managed to work on this particular strategy that Sam is going to talk to today. But let me introduce Sam properly. So Professor Sam Harvey is a Deputy Director at Black Dog Institute and leads our workplace mental health research program. He was initially a general practitioner and also, I do believe, it's on your bio here, Sam, but I think you've heard you say before that you're an epidemiologist. I could be wrong, but I'll ask you that in the Q&A. He trained in psychiatry at the Institute of Psychiatry in London and completed his PhD with the University of London. He came back to Sydney in 2012. We'd be lucky to have him. His research considers the role in workplace trauma having participating in let me read that again. His research considers the role and workplace trauma may have in precipitating mental illness, the occupational outcomes of those already suffering from mental disorders, and workplace-based interventions for both treatment and prevention of mental disorders. Sam has been leading our Black Dog Institute with such aplomb and gravitas. I'm really pleased to welcome him today. Sam, I'm going to hand over to you to tell us a little bit about where we're going in the next 5 years.
Thanks so much, Taz. And can I just join you in welcoming everybody to this session? It's, for me as a scientist, this is a really exciting morning to be chairing because science is at the heart of everything that we do. And very often when I'm out talking on behalf of the Institute, I'm talking about what government should be doing in terms of policy, or I'm rattling the can to try and bring money into the work we do. But to have a whole morning dedicated to just talking about the science is really exciting. And what I wanted to do over the next 5 minutes is just to kind of set the scene a bit for what you're going to hear from our researchers that are talking and where it fits into our broader mission. Black Dog Institute is obviously all about mental health. And before I talk in a little bit more detail about our strategy and the specific questions we're trying to answer at the moment, I kind of just want to pause and I guess address the question of why mental health and why, in a world where there's so much amazing research going on, why am I personally passionate about mental health research, and why, as our supporters and partners online, why I think you should be as well. And I guess there's two parts to this. As Taz mentioned, I started my career as a GP in South London, and when I saw people with a range of different physical health problems, but those with mental health symptoms stood out from all of the other patients I saw because of the mental ill health, like no other disorder, really gets at the heart of who we are as humans. And you can see that when you are with patients who are opening up about their symptoms. And the flip side of that is when we as clinicians treat people with mental illness, we see lives turn around in a way in which I never saw when I was treating any other type of illness or disorder. And one of the myths about mental illness that I still hear sometimes is that we don't really have any good ways to prevent people becoming unwell or any good ways to treat people when they do become unwell. And what you'll hear today is you'll see the science that's showing that's absolutely not the case. And, for me, I feel mental health is now kind of where cardiovascular disease and some other areas of medicine were 40, 50 years ago. 40 years ago, we were thinking, gosh, can we actually treat people who've had a heart attack? Can we prevent heart attacks? And of course, we know the answer is absolutely yes. They're the questions that we're answering now for mental health. And I think for my generation of medical researchers and clinicians, mental health is one of the key big issues that we're looking to really break through over the next 10 years. And I guess that brings me to that's the individual aspect of mental health. If we take a population point of view, really whatever metric you want to look at, last year in Australia, the number one reason that people presented to their GP was for a mental health problem. If we look at what is causing young Australians to die, top of the list is suicide. We're now losing more young Australians to suicide than we are to motor vehicle accidents. And that's just not an acceptable situation. Mental ill health, how we can prevent it, how we can treat it, is absolutely one of the key grand challenges of our generation. And that's what the Black Dog Institute is all about. It's about doing the research, which you'll hear about today, and then translating that into action. And one of the key differences of the Black Dog Institute compared to other research organisations is not only do we do all the amazing research that you'll hear about today, but we also have whole teams dedicated to translating that into real-world impact. So the research my team does about what should be going on in workplaces, we then have a whole team that goes out into workplaces and puts that into action. You'll hear today about some of the work we're doing in schools, and you know that work is being directly translated into what kids are getting taught in the classrooms now, and the same with the clinical research that you hear. The other thing that makes us unique is that we look at mental health across the lifespan, and we're the only medical research in Australia that does that. And you'll see that today in the presentations. Some of the early presentations you'll hear, we're going to be talking about the work we're doing with young primary school age children and how to identify mental health problems, how to treat mental health problems with that. And then we do the same the whole way through with high school students, university students in the workplace, and then for adults in their later life. And that gives us a really unique perspective on what we can be doing across our society to be helping with mental health. So with those sort of general comments, what is it that we're particularly going to be focusing on in the next 5 years? Because, I mean, there is so much to do, and Black Dog is now such a big organisation with so much going on. What you're going to see today is just a snapshot of what we've got going on in the organisation. And one of the really joyous things now is just how hard it is to pick what we're going to put in these showcases. And so we have to, when we look forward over the next 5 years, we've got to be clear about what are the key things that we're focusing on. And in terms of research questions, there's 3 key research questions that are covered in our new 5-year strategy. The first one of those focuses on us trying to lead Australia's population mental health and suicide prevention response. So just to unpack what that means, when I talk about population mental health, what I'm talking about really is about prevention. What is it that we can be doing in our schools, in our workplaces, in our communities to prevent people developing mental health problems in the first place? And as you'll hear a number of examples of that research going on at the moment, and that's a hugely exciting field, and it's one that Black Dog really leads the world in, that sort of what can be happening outside of the health service to improve mental health. So that's the first of those research questions. The second is then focusing on what we can do for people when they develop depression or an anxiety disorder. And we want to be able to transform the clinical care for those individuals. And we can do that in 2 ways. Firstly, we can be developing new and better treatments for depression and anxiety, and you'll hear some examples about that today. The second thing we can be doing is we can be trying to help reform the mental health care system so that it is easier for people to get the help they need. And that's all about developing new models of care, changing what happens when individuals go to their GP to get help for depression or anxiety. The third research area that we're focusing on is about how we can become a trusted partner to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities and help work with them to improve social and emotional well-being in our First Nations people. This is something that we've been working on for a while, and again, you'll hear one of the presentations today about a program that we developed together with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders called iBobbly, but that's just one example of what we're trying to do in terms of taking all of the work that we've been doing around mental health and all of that stuff around what we do in schools and communities, what happens in clinical practices, and help work with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities to make that culturally appropriate for their community so that they can have those same benefits. And then also to look at some of the very specific issues that are going on in those communities, the impact that's having on mental health and how we can address that. So they're the big three focuses for us over the coming years. Alongside that, there's a fourth one, which is more internally focused in terms of us being a sustainable, fit-for-purpose workplace. And, you know, there is a obligation on an institute like the Black Dog Institute to be making sure that we're training the next generation of researchers, the next generation of clinicians to be out both within our organisation, across Australia, across the world, continuing this work. And so over the next 5 years, we've got a real focus on doing that. And you'll see some of our younger researchers presenting today as part of that. So hopefully over the morning, you'll see a number of presentations that you'll now be able to think, yeah, I can see where that fits into what they're doing. I can see where this is one of those three big issues, three big research questions they're trying to answer. Hopefully you also see that full spectrum of, you'll see some research which is exciting new stuff that is new knowledge or a new treatment that we're still working out where it fits in. And then you'll see other stuff which is further along the spectrum, which is we're actually putting it out there at scale and it's now benefiting tens of thousands of people. So that's my way of putting what you're going to see today in focus. I just want to circle back again and really thank you for your time this morning. And I know looking at the list of the people who are with us today, there are many of you that have been supporters or partners of ours for many, many years. And I want to thank you for that as well. For those who this is the first time you're hearing about the Black Dog Institute, welcome. And, the purpose of today is really as a taster of what we're doing. And for many of you, hopefully we'll be able to go on and have ongoing conversations afterwards. So with that, Taz, should I pass back to you?
Thank you, Sam. That was fantastic. And a quick shout out to Jermaine from Redlands in Brisbane and Simone from Lockdown 6 in Melbourne. My goodness, Simone, we're with you. And Heidi from Mission Beach on Didgeridoo, and I hope that I pronounced that correctly. And thank you also to the people who have inputted into the poll. That's really great about what you'd like to get out of today. We talked, there's been quite a bit of feedback there, looking for clarity, learn more, work about the scope of what Black Dog Institute does, an update on our latest research. You're looking for some new insights into our work and practical applications of research. And of course, the big one, how to prevent future mental illnesses. So we'll be covering all that, we promise, in the next few hours. Sam, just while I've got you, and thank you so much for outlining the strategy. That was really fantastic. I just want to ask you one question. We've got about 6-7 minutes here to think about the blended care model. My understanding is the Productivity Commission released a report, gosh, I hope it was late last year, into mental health, and they identified what they call essentially the missing middle, the gap of people who can't get evidence-based interventions. Can you talk to me about what a blended care model looks like and Black Dog Institute's work in this space?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big issues for us in mental health in Australia is if I see somebody with depression or anxiety in the clinic, we've got a range of great treatment options that we can use. And the vast majority of people get huge benefit from those. The problem is how long it has sometimes taken for those individuals to get in front of a psychiatrist or a psychologist to be able to get that help. And we regularly in our clinic hear stories of people who say that they've had to wait for 6 or 9 months to be able to get in to see someone. And so one of the things we're trying to do at the moment is saying, well, how can we get treatments we know are effective out to more people? And technology is a great hope there. And many of you will know that for the last decade, Black Dog's really led the world in terms of developing online treatment programs or app-based treatment programs that mean that individuals don't even have to go see their GP to start getting help. And we have on our website an online clinic where individuals can go, do a mental health assessment, get told the type of online programs that will help them, and away they go. But for many, there is a need for them to be seeing somebody face-to-face and to be guiding them through that. And so what we're trying to do with blended care is to really use a combination of traditional face-to-face consultations with a clinician and a patient, but to combine that together with some of the online tools and the apps that people can use. And the two big advantages of this is firstly, it means that a single psychiatrist or a psychologist can be seeing many more people at once because a part of the work is being done outside of the room. But also for the individuals, it means that the work and the treatment can continue in between sessions because what they're doing online or via an app helps build on what they've been doing in the sessions. So that's the sort of the blended care part of it, and that trying to bring together those new digital technologies and combine it with traditional clinical care. The second part of what you were talking about, that missing middle group, is that even with using technology in that way, we still end up with a big group of people whom their depression or their anxiety is too complicated for their GPs to manage, but they're not so unwell that they need to be utilising our public mental health system. And so unless you've got an individual with private healthcare who can pay to see a private practitioner, there's just a big gap there. And we're working together with GPs to try and work out new models of care where you can actually get the care shared between the GP and the specialist to bridge that gap and to make our system more efficient. We've got a real workforce problem in mental health, and we're trying to put pressure on the government to correct that. But in the meantime, we've got to find a way to use our resources more efficiently so that most people can get benefit from these things. And that's a combination of both how we set up models of care, how we share care between GPs and specialists, and also how we use technology.
Thanks, Sam. That's so insightful. Can I just ask this with the last minute before we pass over to Joanne? What does that mean for the patient? What does that mean for someone going through mental illness? This blended care model.
I think it means they have more options than ever before. And I can say within our clinics now at the Black Dog, one of the things we've had to do during COVID is we've shifted all of our consults to telemedicine. So I see patients on the screen, and it's incredible because now I've got patients who used to have to take a day off work to come and see me, who now shut their office door and I see them in their lunch break. And a number of patients have said I would have stopped coming by now because I wouldn't have wanted to keep telling my workplace that I had to have a day off work for my mental health. Now they don't have to. And blended care does the same. It means that rather than needing to see me once a month, they can now see me once every 2 months because they're doing the stuff online and with an app before. And indeed, there's a group of people who know they need help but are not yet ready to chat to their GP about it. Well, great. There's stuff that they can do online by themselves. So I think it just gives the patients and the individuals so much more flexibility and choice to decide how they want to get help and how they want to progress.
Thank you, Sam. That was so insightful.